Hey guys, welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit, Am I the A-hole? This one's from user Air Mattress AH. Am I the a-hole for not reimbursing my brother for an air mattress? This happened around Thanksgiving, but I'm still getting crap about it from my family. I'm a 27-year-old woman who lives in a one-bedroom apartment by myself. My brother, 24, and his significant other, 22, have lived on the opposite side of the country, US, for a few years and decided to fly over to see their respective families, both of whom live around the same area. Neither my brother nor his girlfriend felt comfortable staying with their parents due to the bug, so I offered them my apartment while I stayed with my significant other for the week. Everyone was happy with this arrangement. We never talked about it specifically before they arrived, so I just assumed that they would sleep in my queen-sized bed. I have a couple of couches in the living area, and while they are comfortable enough, they aren't designed to be sofa beds. The morning they arrived, I cleaned the apartment and changed the bedding. When they got to my apartment, my brother asked where they should sleep, and I indicated the bed. He sort of laughed at first, and then realized I was serious and got really angry. His girlfriend didn't say much but looked mortified. My brother kept saying that there was no way they were sleeping in my bed, and it was disgusting for me to offer. I told him that everything was clean and reminded him that they'd have the apartment to themselves. He just kept saying he couldn't believe it and finally snapped that they'd have to make do with the couch. I left quickly without further discussion because I was confused and pretty upset. That night, my brother called me and said the couches were impossible to sleep on. He said that he and his girlfriend needed to purchase an air mattress and requested that I reimburse him the $55 they paid for it. By now, I was really angry and refused. I asked him again why they didn't just take the bed, and he said that if I really had to ask, I have major issues. I said that I didn't care what they did or did not do in the bed. We are all adults and should act accordingly. He called me disgusting again and hung up. My parents found out and agree that I should pay for the air mattress because I wasn't adequately prepared for their arrival. My mother especially keeps insinuating that what I did was gross and unfair, and I should have known better. My brother has let it be known that our relationship won't go back to normal until I apologize and reimburse him and his girlfriend. I know my family can be kind of weird and uptight, so I asked my significant other and some friends for their perspective. My boyfriend says he can see both sides, and my friends are basically siding with my parents and brother, saying that it would be inappropriate for me to sleep in the same bed that my brother and his girlfriend previously shared. Am I the a-hole? The judgment is not the a-hole. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Department Outrageous says, 100% not the a-hole. Have they ever slept in a hotel? Because I guarantee that bed is a hell of a lot more gross than yours. LA Kings of Metal says, what the F? Tell him he can go spend $55 a night on an effing hotel next time, not the a-hole. NH Foodie says, not the a-hole. That's absolutely mad. Has your prima donna brother and his prissy significant other ever slept in a hotel? Well, congrats then. Your apartment is likely cleaner than that. What does he think? You host orgies and peeing contests on your bed? Your family is for sure uptight. This is wild, lol. OP's edit. A lot of people are asking if we belong to some weird culture where siblings aren't able to share beds. We do not, and my family has never been religious anyway. But as I stated in my post, they are really uptight. Like, we learned about the birds and the bees, but sex was always presented as something unpleasant and nasty. My brother and I never discuss each other's sexuality, sexual lives, which in my opinion is normal, but it's pretty clear he has some major hang-ups. My boyfriend is a lot more open about sex, but he's also very attuned to when people feel uncomfortable and says that even though he disagrees with their reasoning, he can understand why they might not want to sleep in my bed. He says I should pay the $55 to keep the peace. My friends, no idea. Lol. OP, yes, you are not the a-hole. What is the matter with your brother? I mean, honestly man, he can use the bed, and if he can't, he's the one that has the hang-up. He's the one that should be paying the $55 without asking for a reimbursement. And then we've got your parents. Ah man, it really bothers me when people just stick their noses in other people's business, even if they are their children. You are a grown woman, you can do whatever you want. If your brother doesn't want to sleep on your bed, that's on him. He needs to pay up. And your parents have absolutely no right to say anything at all. Their opinion is unwarranted, unwanted, and irrelevant. And of course, that's just my opinion. Got a little bit heated there, but yeah, that really bothers me. Anyways, let's move on to the update to see how OP handled this situation. So, I have an update for y'all. Good news and bad, insane news. Good news first. My and my brother's relationship is back to normal, or as normal as possible for our family. It's well understood that I'm not going to pay him for the mattress. I also showed him everyone's responses and he conceded that he may have overreacted about this, which is as close as I'm getting to an apology. He also said that it's a classic example of a Reddit circle jerk, but I'll take what I can get. Insane news. The reason I posted on AITA to begin with was because I was so taken aback by one of my friend's reactions. Let's call her Claire. She went to middle and high school with me and my brother, although they aren't close. Claire seemed so completely adamant that offering my bed was inappropriate that I thought I might be in the wrong. We haven't spoken since I mentioned the situation to her, and I didn't think anything of it until my phone started blowing up this past weekend. Long story short, Claire texted some mutual friends, my parents, and my boss, who she doesn't know at all, that she believes me and my brother are having an improper relationship. To be clear, this is wildly out of character and I have reason to believe she's undergoing some sort of mental health crisis. Thankfully, my brother and family are being very supportive. So are my other friends and boyfriend. My boss, not so much, and I'm dreading my upcoming performance review. Happy New Year, everyone! Well, OP, that's some really refreshing good news that you solved the problem with your brother and your relationship is as back to normal as it can be. Now, regarding your friend Claire, what the actual F is going through her mind that she thinks this is okay to do in any way? Remember when I just said that I really disliked when people get into other people's business without being called to? This is one of those examples. Who does she think she is to call your parents, your friends, and your boss most of all? What the hell, man? That is so inappropriate that the only way I could explain it is by either knowing that she is a full-on 100% idiot, or she is having some sort of mental health crisis like you say she is. Now, of course, both are bad options because who wants to have an idiot for a friend? And also, having a mental health crisis, that's not a good thing to wish upon anybody. The good thing is that your brother and family are supportive and also your friends and boyfriend. Now, regarding your boss, I wouldn't wait until your upcoming performance review to talk about this. I'd try to get ahead of it and talk to them about what's going on, explaining everything and also explaining Claire, which, wow, wild card there, right? In any case, that's just my opinion, and hopefully everything will be resolved without OP getting into any kind of work trouble. This one's from user Lightning STR. Am I the a-hole for raining on my cousin's parade regarding the name she picked out for her baby? My cousin Stephanie and I are really more friends than relatives. An important note is that she's not really online much, so can be out of the loop on certain memes and jokes in internet culture. And to be honest, doesn't really understand the concept of viral internet references or how they work. Stephanie is pregnant and just found out it's going to be a girl. About a week ago, she told a gathering of her best girlfriends that she's going to name her daughter Karen. The room instantly went cold, but after an awkward silence, everybody else politely said it was lovely. I couldn't bring myself to respond at all. Later in the evening, when Stephanie was out of the room, everyone was immediately like, "Oh my god, that poor kid," and "Why would she pick Karen of all names?" I wasn't comfortable with this conversation, given that everyone had been so positive about the name to her face. I thought more about it over the next couple of days and just felt really weird about the whole thing. The name is really loaded, to the point it could be detrimental to the baby, and Stephanie had no idea of the connotations to make an informed decision. So, a couple of days later, I tentatively brought it up. I told her I was so excited for the baby and just wanted her to have all available information when picking a name. I then started to explain that Karen has some negative connotations and has become sort of an internet joke to describe a specific kind of entitled middle-aged woman. Stephanie instantly was furious and started talking over me, saying, "Why are you saying this? This is so mean." I was really surprised by her reaction. It felt very, very out of character. So I immediately stopped and said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I just wanted to tell you something I thought you might not know." She replied, "That's the name I picked for my daughter, and you think I picked it as some kind of joke? I don't understand why you'd say something so hurtful." When she said that, I felt like it signaled that she didn't really understand what I was trying to tell her. So after agonizing for a second about whether to press the issue even though she was so angry, I felt like in for a penny, in for a pound. And since she was already mad, I wanted her to at least understand what I was trying to explain to her. I googled Karen Know Your Meme on my phone and tried to show her the screen results while saying, "Look, I'm just saying that there's more meaning to the name than you may realize." She stood up, pushed my phone away and shouted, "Wow." She then stormed out of my home and drove away. My aunt and mom have been berating me all week because Stephanie told them that I made fun of her baby name. Stephanie has not spoken to me or responded to my texts since. I can take a hint, and I'm not going to broach a topic again that caused so much distress. But I keep going back and forth on whether I was the a-hole here by bringing it up in the first place. The judgment is, you're the a-hole. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Ethan Reed says, "You're the a-hole. You think it's going to matter when this kid's older? It's a meme. Oh, and for anyone pregnant or planning to have kids, this is why you don't reveal the name until they're born. Someone's always got something stupid to say, no matter what." Eliezi says, "You're the a-hole. I am aware of the Karen meme, but come on. It's a totally normal name. I can't believe so many of you would take a meme so seriously." Helen790 says, "No a-holes here. You were just informing her of the connotations surrounding the name." OP's edit. "Thanks everyone. I have been properly schooled and I accept my judgment that I was the a-hole here. Stephanie and I have a history of being extremely open and honest with each other. I was the maid of honor in her wedding, which we planned on being the case from a young age, and we always joked as teenagers that part of my duties would include talking her out of the marriage if the groom she picked sucked. And so maybe I was too flippant with approaching this topic due to our history, and was unempathetic in underestimating how much she was already invested in the name she chose for her future daughter. I admit, I am a bit frustrated that Stephanie still doesn't understand what I was trying to tell her. She still thinks I was making some kind of weird, cruel joke, accusing her of picking the name as a joke. But I have messaged her a sincere apology that she accepted, and I will never speak of this again. To Stephanie or baby Karen. I'll also stand up for Stephanie if her other friends crap talk the name around me again. If they're not willing to voice their thoughts to Stephanie directly, they need to not say the kinds of things they were saying behind her back. Edit 2. One more thing. I definitely was not trying to tell Stephanie to not name her daughter Karen. I just wanted her to make the decision either way, knowing the connotations, since I'd want someone to do the same for me if I picked a baby name with cultural baggage I wasn't aware of. I realize now I handled it poorly and was hurtful to Stephanie in the process, but I just wanted to be clear that I wasn't actively trying to talk her out of the name. I just didn't want her to be blindsided if it came up later. OP, I agree with you. Maybe you didn't handle it properly, but I don't think you were the a-hole here. If anything, the only a-holes I see here are those two-faced friends who tell her, oh, it's a lovely name, and then behind her back ask, hey, why would she do this? Those friends suck. But between you and Stephanie, I think there are no a-holes here. You were just looking out for her because you love her, and if she still wants to name her baby Karen, that's her prerogative, that's her choice. But the least you could do as a family member is help her out and understand what's up. Maybe the way you went about it made her feel attacked with the name or something like that for the way she reacted. Or maybe you could have asked her if your opinion is welcome and then tell her what's going on and all of that internet stuff. In any case, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think OP should have done regarding this name? Well, while you think about that, let's continue with the update to see what happened after the baby was born. My post wasn't the most exciting or dramatic on Am I the A-hole, but I wanted to provide an update if anyone is interested. Baby Karen was born healthy and happy back in October. She's an absolute sweetheart of a baby, and I'm totally in love with her. Between March and May, I didn't get to see her at all in person, but I was doing regular FaceTime house party calls with Stephanie and Karen. And over the last few weeks, I've been going over to Stephanie's house to sit in her backyard and chat with Stephanie, coo at Karen from a lengthy distance. I have two reasons for updating. First, I've realized since Karen's birth that her name has taken on new meaning to me. When I'm with her, Karen just means her, and I don't think about the other connotations. In other words, you guys were right. That said, though, my second reason for updating is that Stephanie got back into her years unused Facebook at the beginning of the lockdown to keep in touch with people. She's been on it pretty regularly lately for the first time in years. Historically, she's not really been into social media. Most people in our area social circle have been posting really heavily about BLM and the protests happening, as well as racial justice issues more generally. As a result, Stephanie has now come into contact with a deluge of Karen memes for the first time and found them confusing and horrifying, especially the use of Karen as shorthand for a racist. I've basically just declined to talk about it with Stephanie because it went so poorly last time. But both my mother and her mother have hounded me about it because it's upsetting to Stephanie and said things like, "Is this what you were talking about before? Why didn't you say so? Why didn't you explain it better? You should have told Stephanie." You really can't win. Thanks again for all your feedback on my last post. It was very helpful in giving me zen about the situation. Edit. Wow, I've been super overwhelmed by the flood of very kind, heartfelt PMs, and just one or two not so kind ones, as well as the comments on my other post. Thank you everyone, it continually amazes me how many nice and empathetic people frequent a sub devoted to a-holes. Okay OP, I'm gonna change my judgment. I still think you were not the a-hole and Stephanie was not the a-hole, but your mom and her mom are definitely acting like a-holes now. They can't change their mind like that. They can't first start telling you that you shouldn't have talked or said anything and that you were being mean, and now go the other way and start saying that you should have done better. No, I'm sorry. You don't get to do that. If Stephanie is now realizing what you were trying to tell her, well, she already made her choice and named her baby. That's done. And like you said, the meaning of Karen now for you means the baby. That should be the same meaning for the family. Hopefully, by the time baby Karen grows up and, gets to be on the internet, Karen or the name Karen changes to something else. Or, people aren't using Karen anymore. We know these things are some sort of a fad sometimes, right? I guess that's just wishful thinking and of course, it's just my opinion. This one is from user Jair56. Am I the a-hole for refusing to put my boyfriend on the title of my house or make him a beneficiary? Background. My boyfriend of over 3 years has been living with me for 18 months. We are both in our 30s, happy, and talk about how this is it for us, relationship-wise. We are in it for the long haul. Only problem, he does not want to get married, and I really do. Marriage is important to me. We have had a lot of talks recently, and his vibe is somewhere between not ready and commitment as far as marriage is stupid, so why bother? After many long discussions, I realized that I love him enough to stay and take marriage off the table, even though I want it. He says he doesn't know if he'll ever want to get married. Side note, we both do not want children. Now the issue. I got paperwork from my insurance and was looking through it. I made a joke about how my parents are going to be really comfortable if I die, especially in an accident. They can mourn me in style because of my insurance policies and the added accidental death insurance I have. My boyfriend and I then got talking and he mentioned how I should really change my beneficiary to him. I said no, absolutely not. I told him that I would never make anyone who isn't blood or legal family my beneficiary. I said I would add him in the future if one day he decided he wanted marriage with me, but as it stands now, my insurance will remain as is. I also told him that since I own the house we live in, I bought it before we got together, that I would never add him to the title without marriage. Am I the a-hole? He is now mad and saying I'm an a-hole and holding marriage as a bargaining chip. We never have to get married, but I'm not comfortable tying him to my finances without being married. The judgment is not the a-hole. Now let's take a look at the top comments. Spoonful of Rage says, not the a-hole. He wants to benefit from marriage, being a legal spouse, without actually getting married? Yeah, no, hard pass. Roseglass says, not the a-hole. I don't think you are using this as a bargaining chip, but rather being cautious and smart. You guys have not been together long enough to tie your finances together. He may change his mind about marriage eventually, and you may change your mind and add him without it. Or you may not on both counts. But right now, it's absolutely too soon. OP responds, and I do agree with this. It is too soon to even talk about tying our finances to each other. When I originally talked marriage, I was hoping for an engagement in the next year and a wedding in a few years. I wasn't even wanting something soon because I think we do need more time before that happens. So talking more about finances shouldn't be a pressing matter yet either. Melee30 says, not the a-hole. He wants the perks of being married, like sharing in the wealth, being a beneficiary of your life insurance without the obligations. Pretty reasonable that you're objecting to that. If he wants to stay single, that's fine, but he shouldn't expect you to agree that it's okay to hand over your nest egg or give him the proceeds of your life insurance. Edit to add. I also have a lot of money tied up in my house. He does pay me to live here. My mortgage is almost $1,200 a month and he pays me $400 a month towards that. I also have a lot of money invested in my house. When I bought it, I used $42,000 that I saved for the down payment. That was all my money and is now equity in the house that he had no part of. OP, I totally agree with you. You are not the a-hole and it is too soon to tie your finances together. However, putting myself in your boyfriend's position, this does kind of sound like you're trying to pull some leverage into the marriage thing. I understand that this is not what you're doing, but if you've just recently had the conversation that he doesn't ever want to marry, and a few days later or a couple of weeks later you say that, hey, you're not going to be a beneficiary of my insurance or be in the deed of the house unless we are married, then yeah, I can see his point about you trying to use this as a bargaining chip. Again, even though it's not what you want. I think you guys need another conversation on this topic with cooler heads and just keep it factual and logical. Anyways, how about we move on to the update to see what actually happened. I listened to a lot of your feedback and talked to my boyfriend after the post. He seemed weird in our talk. He's been weird a lot lately, but I have been excusing it. He told me that he said to put him on as an insurance beneficiary partially as a joke, but then when I went off on my tangent, including offering up that he'll never go on my house title either, even though he never mentioned it, that he got offended and reacted poorly. He said he really did think I was going off about all that in retaliation for his not to marriage talks, so he was left with a bitter taste, which I get. I can be more forceful than I realize, and I'm naturally passive-aggressive. He said I didn't have to put him on anything, but he needs me to understand that I am it for him. He wants to make his life with me. Things seemed to be better after this. That weekend, he asked if I wanted to go on a hike. It was peak season for the leaves changing, and there is this waterfall he suggested we go to. We get to the waterfall and he pulls an envelope out of his jacket with a tiny bow on it and says it's a present for me. I open it and it's a receipt from a jewelry store. I was confused, but I see he had the date of purchase highlighted and circled with a heart. It was early August, before the talks we had where he said he never wanted to get married. I turned and there he is with a ring. I said yes. He said he knew I would never believe that he had the ring before all this without the receipt. That his attitude and comments when I started asking about marriage was to fool me so I didn't get suspicious because this was the plan all along. He wanted an autumn proposal in a beautiful location since it's my favorite season. The money he has been saving after moving in with me, since I charge him a much smaller amount than he was previously paying, went to the ring. He saved money for over a year because he knew when he moved in with me that he was going to eventually ask me to marry him. So honestly, this is the best case scenario. We talked after too. When we get married, we will add each other as beneficiaries on our insurance policies. And we decided there's no need to put him on my title even after we get married. I really appreciate everyone's comments on that last post. I read all of them and most people were genuinely concerned and offered wonderful advice and support. Well, that's a twist that I didn't see coming, and also a lot of the commenters, so how about we take a look at 3 comments to see what they think about this throwing her off her tracks proposal approach. Rhodey said, "We learned from Chandler that this is not how one covers an intent to propose. Anyway, congrats on actually communicating." Josie Wales says, "Oh man, what a bumbling way to hide a proposal. This will make a great story down the line though, and I bet you two will laugh about it quite a bit. Glad it worked out." For Real Maybe says, "Congratulations, but I really wished he had realized that you can surprise someone with an engagement without forcing them to go through the emotional toll of thinking their partner is anti-marriage. He could have told you he was open to marriage but wasn't ready yet and still surprised you. He really created a lot of unnecessary drama and angst with his approach. I agree, if all that anti-marriage kind of talk was just to throw you off your track or, to make you think that he didn't want to marry you so that the surprise would be bigger, he went about it really wrong. To his credit, and at least OP hasn't told us otherwise, he didn't start talking about pig intimacy like Chandler did. Ugh. But the good thing is that the truth is out in the open, they're engaged, they're happy, and they're moving forward. Congratulations, OP! And that's it for this video. If you'd like, here are other videos from my channel that you would enjoy. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.